Christine Martinuke, and I'll be presenting the results from Momentum, a London industry firm marketing the product Sonites. The following will be based on Markstrat Simulation by Stratix. We will start with an overall performance of the firm, then performance by brand and lessons learned. Next, we will move on to segmentation and the 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion. You can see from the graph on the left that revenue peaked in period 6. There was a slow start in growth due to financial constraint from limited budget in the earlier periods, but steady growth was seen from period 1 through period 6. The SPI trend in the chart below shows a similar result. The graph on the right shows the value share of Momentum compared to other competitive firms, and Momentum maintained second place from period 3 through the end of the simulation in period 8. In first place was Records, a strong competitor. So over the course of the 4 periods, Momentum marketed 4 successful brands and 2 that were tested and withdrawn. In the beginning, there were 2 brands, Most and Move, for savers and shoppers, respectively. The initial goal was to reposition these 2 brands to optimize sales, leveraging the existing brand awareness. After that, additional R&D projects were completed in order to launch subsequent brands. The brand More, for example, was launched for the higher earner segment, but at the same time, the same R&D project was used to upgrade the brand Move, as the shoppers and high earners were essentially looking for the same product, but at different price points. You can see from this graph that there was a heavy reliance on the brand Move. This shows that the success of a firm can sit on one specific product, although this presents a substantial risk. While there was a strong period 6, this paved the way for an overestimated production in period 7, which led to overstock, making it to upgrade the product due to the potential losses. What were the keys to success? So there was heavy R&D investment for product upgrades and new product development. Move was an early entrant into a large segment, the shoppers, and there was a detailed assessment of consumer surveys, consumer reports, to take a look at the preferences of the different segments and which products they would prefer if they were looking to make a purchase. Competing products were also compared, and including their attributes and prices in order to assess strategies to stay competitive. Next time, what would have made Momentum more successful would have been to take the loan option for $5 million as early on as possible. This would have allowed for earlier product development and more time for consumers to become acquainted with the product and to develop brand awareness and position the products exactly where I wanted them. Introducing new products slowly in uncertain segments may have been a better strategy, especially for the brand Motto, which was marketed to the explorers segment and was not profitable because the segment was small and it was not possible to capture the majority of the segment in a limited amount of time. Segmentation. Segmentation determines product, price, place, and promotion. It kind of drives all of these things. So looking at the list below, targeting specific markets is necessary in a competitive environment, definitely, in order to cater specifically to the segment. If a product falls between the wants of 2 segments, it may not sell at all. So Below is basically the bottom line for how each segment was viewed. Certainly there was more detailed analysis done. And then at the bottom is an example of how the 4Ps relate to a segment, the savers. So savers were not looking for top of the line features. They were looking for a product at an inexpensive price. They preferred shopping at mass merchandisers. And since they were so price sensitive, emphasizing price may be a good way to reach this segment. Product. In determining what the product should be, of course, we would look at the consumer wants and needs. Below is a conjoint analysis chart, which shows the needs of the shoppers. So shoppers, the most important element to the shoppers was price. For each of the different variables, 4 random points were chosen. So this really only gives you an idea of the range that we would want to be in ideally. So say, for example, we want to be somewhere between $241 and $324 in order to have maximum appeal price-wise to shoppers. The next most important element was power, followed by display and design, which didn't seem to have a huge impact. So once we've decided on a product, looking at competing products is also very valuable. We don't want to offer a more expensive product with fewer features compared to one of the competitors. At the same time, we also don't want to offer the exact same features as a competitor because that gives no room for differentiation. Brand image also has an impact. We don't want to take a brand such as Most, which is a brand that's already well known and marketed to the savers, and try to reposition that for professionals because they're just not looking for different things. And to the professionals, the image does, professionals and high earners, the image does have an impact on their buying choices. Price and place. So for price, looking at the segment price range is of course important, as we saw with Move and More, which were the exact same product being successfully sold at different prices to the different segments. Looking at competing product attributes and prices and comparing obviously to those is also relevant. And discounting to move more product, it can be an effective approach if the product was slightly overpriced. However, if the attributes of the product no longer fit what the consumer is looking for, this alone is not enough. Place. Different target segments preferred shopping in different types of stores. Geographical distribution is of course relevant in real life. In this case, we were looking specifically at store types. So you can see in the graph below, this is data from period 6. So online stores, while they were the least costly to offer products through this channel, they accounted for less than a quarter of the overall units sold. The rest distributed between mass merchandisers and specialty stores. So depending on which segment you were targeting, you would weight different types of stores differently. For example, the savers were looking to shop primarily at mass merchandisers, and the high earners and professionals preferred to shop at specialty stores. Promotion. So consumer preference, of course, plays in here again, making sure that the message focus is something that will appeal to the consumer is important, and the semantic and multidimensional scaling heat maps, such as the ones seen below, were extremely valuable in determining where the product falls and how to reposition through advertising in order to maximize sales. So you can see below in this chart that Each segment is seen in a circle, and then each firm is represented by a color and symbol. So from looking at where each brand falls on this map, we can decide how best to advertise this brand to the segment. Message clarity was also important, and this was attained through market research, which was a portion of the advertising budget. So some of the budget would go through media to actually get the message out there and actually advertise to consumers, and the other part was figuring out exactly how to reach them in an effective way. Level of investment was also an important consideration, and advertising experiments were a valuable way to determine if the level of investment was appropriate. On the right, you can see a graph of an advertising experiment which was completed for Momentum in period 6. So from this graph, we can see that if the advertising budget had been increased by 20%, Motto would have earned $630,000 in addition to the sales that were actually realized. On the other hand, More would have lost $987,000 if this additional funding was spent, because More really didn't need more advertising budget. It may have already been slightly over invested on the advertising front. And that's it, and thank you for your attention.